Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an interview that a lot of you have been waiting for. We did a pre-interview with John Phoenix from Sweden a couple days ago. It's just a pre-interview kind of to go over a little bit of what he wanted to share with us. Today, well, I have the full interview and it is pretty amazing. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help, and it definitely matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload, shall we? All right, everybody. Today I have a special guest with us. I did a kind of pre-interview with him a couple days ago, John Phoenix. John, how are you today?
Thank you very much for having me back. I'm awesome.
I appreciate you coming back. I'm glad that we were able to get our times and everything squared away. The pre-interview, a lot of people liked, and I liked it. You were kind of a little put off. You were a little upset at how it went. I thought it was great. And everyone else did too. So
yeah, no, not upset, but it was like all the listeners there. It was off the cuffs. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I was not amped up, but I wanted to give Jeff so much information, and we jump from different subjects. So now we're going to be a little bit more structured, and I'm going to talk slower because now it's not 4 o'clock in the morning for me. It's 8 p.m. here.
Right. And like you said, you were passionate. You're passionate about this. This is your life, you know. And you're sharing information with us because I think it's like 85% of my listeners are from America, and you're sharing a culture and kind of a different creature than what we have here. Yeah, I mean, it has a dog-like body and a dog face and head and tail and this and that, but it is a different creature all in all. One thing that John did just share and clarify with me is he had mentioned the picture of Alpha. We're going to be able to share that with you guys. That's going to be the picture that you guys are seeing now. And I want to thank you for allowing us to share that. You did ask Alpha about, because I had brought up the crawlers, and you had asked Alpha about the crawler / rake. What kind of information did he share with you about these creatures, or did Miss Misha? And really quick, before we even get into that, how do you directly speak to Alpha, or do you speak to him through Miss Misha? How does that work? Because we're going to hear her about her.
We're going to start there because Miss Misha is on a whole nother level than I am, and she is very spiritual, and she knows a lot of stuff that I actually in my cradle with. I just have started to open up more and more for different kind of stuff, but it is mainly, of course, the cryptozoology. And I am in contact with Alpha whenever he wants, but I can't just be in constant contact with Alpha as she does, because they are on speaking terms all the time. So I asked Miss Misha about the crawlers, and she just tuned in, and she got an answer straight away. And when I speak now, or before the show, I wrote to Jeff, then Alpha can get in contact with me. And actually, this sounds also ridiculous, but I'm working so much in English, so he actually speaks telepathically with me in English more than Swedish.
Okay.
When he speaks to Miss Misha, he speaks with an ancient Norwegian, Swedish, Icelandic accent. And they speak pretty slow, not like they are slow in that way, but articulated.
Right.
And it sounds funny because it's a deep voice, and for me, I can equivalent this one to Mufasa when he was dead and spoke to Simba. And it's funny. You start laughing a little bit, of course, when you hear it, but it was a deep, almost like James Earl Jones voice, and then you know it's Alpha.
Okay.
And Alpha has been here in my apartment one time to just check me up, and it was not him physically, of course, but it was almost like a hologram, and I was not afraid. And he has to bend his back, because here in Sweden the roof is approximately 9 feet, I believe. And I was also stated that I saw that somebody said I just had these wrong figures, and yes, because 4 o'clock in the morning is a little bit hard to convert metric system into miles in some way. So I will state that they can run up to approximately 110 miles per hour. That's equivalent to 180 kilometers per hour. Of course, that's a maximum speed. And the distance they can cover in one take is approximately 370 miles, which is 600 kilometers in one take. And if somebody say, no, how can they run that long distance? Well, check the cars. If they jog in 55, 60 miles per hour, not the maximum speed, they can reach a pretty good distance in a couple of hours, which they do.
Yeah.
It's common sense.
Yeah. I mean, I just recently drove 300 miles from my house to Rhode Island in, like, I think it was less than 3 hours, because I was going over 65 miles an hour. Yeah, you're going to have people like that in the comment section. The majority of people, will understand what they understand it. It was 4 a.m, but there's those people that just kind of, they have nothing better to do with their time, so they want to correct you, or, just, it's almost like a sense of entitlement, I guess. But anyway,
I'm just going to state one more thing. I apologize for I used some words, wrong words. So bewildered is, of course, feral or more animalistic. And I will also state that the Nordic Lords, with the gnomes and the trolls, there are, of course, very, very few people who actually believes in that. They are from different dimensions, so they're not from the same dimensions as Bigfoot and Dogman.
Okay.
And they're only the ones who are spiritual, few who are spiritual, who can actually see trolls and gnomes. So those kind of beings are in a total other dimension from the ones from the cryptozoology point of view. And also that the only thing that people know now is that I am living in Stockholm. So more than that, you won't get.
Right.
Not where in Stockholm, but Stockholm City, Sweden, the capital of Sweden.
I mean, you don't have to. I always tell anybody it's your anonymity. So, you don't have to explain that. That's something you don't have to share or explain. So, so getting on to the crawler thing.
Fire it away.
Yeah. Getting on to the crawler thing. What was the information shared about the crawlers?
The Alpha, he said crawlers, and then she said, this one pale white, they call them the rake, and it said more or less, yeah, the rake. Yes, we look upon them as peasants, and they fighting for the same food source, because you see the picture, or actually a short movie, of course, online, that there was one crawler who was bending and had one moose, I think, in sight. And Dogman and Bigfoot, like I said before, they protect. So up here, we don't have any crawlers because they immediately kill them for these two reasons. Not fighting over food, and they are actually rodents. So they smash the skull in, more or less immediately. And Bigfoot use boulders and stomp on them, and Dogman, they usually don't use boulders, and they just jump on them,
right.
Kill them instantly.
And you had said to me, right, they do it if they can right out of the portal that they come out. So they come out of portals. Are they, like you had just shared with us, these gnomes, fairies, etc., are on a different, or come from a different kind of plane from Bigfoot, Dogman? Do these crawler-like creatures come from a different plane, or are they from where they also come from?
They're cryptids, so they come from the same kind of level or dimensions as the rest of the different cryptids.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, when we had talked, you had kept referring to a hierarchy or in a structure similar to a biker gang.
Yes.
But after I had listened to the upload and I sat and I thought about everything, the biker gang is pretty much modeled after a government. And so the European dogmen have their own kind of government, essentially. Correct. Now, correct. Is the alpha that Misha and you are familiar with, is he the all-powerful alpha, or is there someone above him?
No, he's the all-powerful alpha for this continent. Then he has equals in North America, South America, Australia, Asia, and Africa. Okay. All right. And they are equal because they get together, of course, have meetings physically, and just like you say, like a higher government, the world government,
almost like a parliament, kind of.
Yes. And I will state that each and every big alpha or alpha, they take care of their own stuff. So the other ones, they don't interfere unless it's a mutiny or something big. Okay. It's each continent for themselves, if you say in that way. Right. Still, though, they can call for help or ask for assistance or advice if needed.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's just like, that's basically a government. It's very interesting that they have that, they're that intelligent to where, I mean, we've always looked at them as intelligent. Even the / North American dogman, which is not of pure blood, I guess you had said prior. Can you explain that to us a little bit better? Why is the alpha of Europe more pure blood than the alpha of North America, or so on and so forth? You know what I mean?
Yeah. As far as I know, everything started up here in the Nordic countries. So that's why everything, they migrate from here. Okay. And the civilization is and was the highest here. I think I wrote in the comment section that human civilization's highest peak, not peak, but highest star has been a different, that you have ancient Greece, you have Egypt, you have some Arabic countries nowadays that actually was the locomotive of the whole civilization of the world. The same thing down in South America and the Chinese dynasty, and also up here in Europe. The heart of civilization and the motor of human civilization has been different through different times. When Greece was the highest one, everybody followed it, and the Romans were enemy, and then the Romans took over, and you have all the things with inventions, you have the mathematics, you have the politics, everything. So it makes sense that everything stands from up here.
Mm.
So it was a role model for the rest of them, and then of course they have to migrate because they want to spread almost like the Vikings going, or you're exploring from Portugal and Spain. As long as I know.
Right.
I don't know that much about it, but this is what I know about. That's why they also settled in North America. They came over, and then, like I said before, when they don't have any contact with humans, if you have a great civilization and you coexist, and then you go somewhere else and be a new settler, and you don't have these interactions with humans or something, that's why you get more wild, or you can do a little bit more whatever you like. And that's the way it is.
Right. All right.
So trading was up to 1003 here, and then everything crumbled down. They parted ways with the Vikings. I don't know the reason why, but
that was going to be my question. My next question is, what was the fallout? What hurt the relationship between human and Dogman in your area?
It's both territorial and also trading. I know that down in around the Mediterranean, when they were mercenaries, they didn't get paid. That was the fallout, because they think the humans are greedy, and they think the humans, due to inventions, they think they are actually on a higher level. So the humans became cocky, so they didn't pay and nurture for this collaboration.
Okay.
This deal, you can say. So that's why there was a big fallout, and then they became enemies, of course, because if you work and you do a good job and you set your own life and you put your own life to risk, and then you don't get paid.
Right.
Of course, you turn to the employers.
Yeah.
Of course, they say F you.
Yeah. When you turn to your yeah, exactly. And they were, as you said, mercenaries. They were paid warriors.
Yes.
And that really, that statement there really adds some concrete to the experience from Alexander the Great, where he had come across a tribe of dog-headed men, as he exclaimed them, and they were very off to him, and not, they weren't looking forward to trading and hugs and kisses. They were just like, get the hell out of here, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
They lost the Dogman back then. They lost the faith in humanity, you can say, because it shows exactly what humans with power are: greedy, not liable.
Right.
Look upon the world today. Same thing, same story.
Exactly.
When you get omnipotent in your own world, you get very greedy, and you are not trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you had mentioned portals,
Yes.
which when someone thinks portals, they think different dimension, alternate universe, whatever. The Dogmen, they came from these portals, correct? Or were they here all the time? Were they from this earth?
They are born here and they die here, but initially, from the beginning, both they and Bigfoot, they came here, were put here on Earth by some force, higher power, whatever.
Right.
They came here, so they didn't came through any portals. Portals is just an asset for them, so they can go within different dimensions.
So they aren't from an alternate dimension. They're from here initially.
They are not from Earth. They're not from our solar system. They are from other systems they were put down here to protect the humans, and then, like I said, the portals are just a good thing for them because they are interdimensional.
Yeah.
So they can jump to different dimensions and different, I don't know about different universe, but different places.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, like you just said, they're not from this earth, but there's been a few experiences, encounters that people have seen dogmen or dog-headed like creatures coming out of some sort of spacecraft. There's been a couple of different experiences, and that's obviously if they're coming off some sort of spacecraft, they're not from this earth.
Exactly.
Which
and
is,
also, you also everybody has to keep in mind that there are different species of this kind of dogman, even though those ones are here are the pure ones, as I said before. So I don't have that too much knowledge about the things more than I just said that they are actually different. They come from different planets. They come from different systems and everything. But the ones that we have here is from a certain place.
Right.
So that's why some of them can see that they're a little bit different looking, and then they're not from the same place.
Yeah. And that there's a connection right there with the Egyptians, because the Egyptians always talked about these, you know, flying portal or flying saucers, flying crafts, not saucers, gods who descended from the skies. And, you know, the Egyptians, they were intelligent, but, you know, if you see something come out of the sky at that point, you're going to automatically think that's a god. And there's the explanation of Anubis, the dog-headed god-like creature. Very fascinating. And it just blows my mind that there's all these little connections that form this big puzzle. And it seems like no matter how many of these little connections you get, the puzzle just keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like a never-ending puzzle.
Exactly. Because if you think that the Egypts, they think that they were the superior culture, and boom, something else comes down and say, hey, this is how you build a pyramid. And they, what? Of course.
Right. Now,
everything changes for humans when they interact with higher powers of some kind, aliens or dogmen or even Bigfoot.
Yeah, yeah. Has there ever been a war between dogmen and Bigfoot? Like an all-out kind of war? Or are you aware of that?
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
Because they're here for the same purpose. So there are some, of course, territorial clashes. There still is, especially in Canada and US. Not over here. Like I said, up here north, we don't have that many clans of Bigfoot. Sorry.
You're fine.
So that's a huge difference between the North America and Europe. And down southern mid part of Europe, they don't have many Bigfoot as well. There's more dogmen than Bigfoot here.
Right. Yeah. You had said that they use primitive or had used primitive tools at one time. Do they still, they can manage fire and simple tools? Do they still use fire and simple tools, or what? I mean,
yes, they can use fire when it's really, really cold up here, you know, in the cave systems,
right,
to warm themselves. But they have so thick fur, so they don't need it because it's pretty warm for them down there. And they can also use axes and not hammers, but simple tools. And they use it on and off, but not on a regular basis.
Right.
No.
Now, how about, so along that line, fire, tools, clothing, jewelry, do they?
Yes, clothing. They have ceremonial clothes. Up here, Alpha told us that they have similar clothes as the Vikings when they have the ceremonies. Otherwise, just clothes they don't need it.
Like a headdress or something, or
no, like capes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly like the capes, the Viking capes that they have in Vikings.
Right, like kind of a moose hide or bear hide or something like that, constructed like that. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That kind of capes.
So jewelry is a no or a yes on that? Because I've heard.
I'm gonna ask because that was a good question. I haven't heard Miss Misha mention jewelries.
Yeah, because there was a guy.
I think never.
From Tennessee. If you could bring this up to her, there was a guy from Tennessee who had come on the show, and very nice guy. He had been, and he wanted to clarify it, that he said, he had been using hallucinogenics, but prior to his use of hallucinogenics, he had seen a Dogman in the trees in Tennessee in the woods. And then shortly after, I believe it was his mom had passed away, and he's sitting in his yard. He was aware of a Dogman being out there. And this Dogman came out of the woods, spoke to him telepathically. But he had noticed kind of like braids, like almost like a Native American would do with their hair, with like kind of a braided bead thing in their hair. And I had also heard of experiences. A person went into a cave at one point and had seen a couple of Dogmen with like silver jewelry, or kind of like a turquoise jewelry, which to me doesn't sound too far-fetched, because back in the day there was trading with humans, and maybe these were just passed on through the years, because I mean, if a Dogman,
it sounds very logical, because back in the ancient time they have the armor, they have the spears, they have the swords, and probably jewelers as well.
Yeah, it's almost like they
were imitating a human.
Yeah, it's
up here they don't have it, as far as I know so far. I can ask. But
okay.
Miss Misha hasn't mentioned anything about that one.
Okay.
And Alpha hasn't told us about that one too, so it's probably a moot point for him. Like, no, we don't wear jewelers, we don't wear braids and braids, even braids.
When you see Alpha, he is just. Can you explain to everyone what Alpha looks like from head to toe?
Oh, he looks like a big black German Shepherd, but 5 times bigger. You will see in the picture, he's standing in the foliage, and he actually told Miss Misha, take a picture. We were standing at the bog, and the whole pack was surrounded us. They surrounded us from 11 o'clock until 7 o'clock, if you think clockwise, not time-wise. And I didn't see them. I actually didn't felt them either. So to prove, she asked him, can we take a picture? And that was one of the first picture that she has taken him. So she took that picture, and we checked the phone later on, and she said, there is. And I said, okay. And then just enchanting the picture, and you see it very clearly. So he looks like a big black German Shepherd with German Shepherd ears, and you see the snout, and he is 3.15 meters, which is 10 feet some inches. He's huge.
Okay. All right.
And of course, he was standing a little bit further away, and the other ones, they mutter like, oh, why do they have to take the pictures, blah, blah, blah. And he says, shush, I am in charge here. You can take a picture.
Right. So, to me, and I may be wrong, it feels like okay, so if anyone's hearing this, and I'm just looking at it as a perspective of not knowing, or maybe I'm just new to Dogman and this and that. But how you explained this, there was trading, then they were mercenaries, which meant, if you think of mercenaries, you would think of soldiers with weapons, and which back then would be like swords, battle axes, I'm assuming, and this and that, cloaks, capes. But now it almost seems like they reverted. Once the war with humanity happened in 1003, that they kind of just gave up on human stuff and said, now it's more or less they don't use tools, they just run like they were meant to run.
Exactly, they're going back to the roots in that way. Because also when they have this altercation and fallen out, of course they don't want to use human weapons.
Right.
They don't need it. Because if you're not a mercenary and you don't work for somebody else, they don't need it. They're using of course the claws and the hands and the arms, and so that's why they have, like, exactly like you say, fallen out from this kind of ancient tools.
Right. Yeah.
They're going back to basic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said,
just going back to nature.
Being Dogman. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Now,
it's not that they can grab a sword if they want to run, but also now is a different time because now people don't know about them.
Right.
So how do you explain it? 5, 6, 10 Dogmen come running with cape swords, and then a human, if he or she sees that, they have to stop smoking the mushrooms.
Yeah.
that would be a sight for sore eyes.
Well,
if nobody believes me now, or if I explain to the whole world, imagine if you say, so 10 Dogmen running with the Roman swords and shields and capes, and they say, oh no, he lost it.
Interestingly enough, though, is the Grimm fairy tales. Everyone knows who the Grimm Brothers are, and they are from Germany.
Yes.
Which is the old country, right, very close to you guys. I mean, you just walk kind of around and you're right in Sweden. It's almost like they were just writing a recorded history in a sense.
Yes, they did. Yes, and if you look upon the TV series, the same thing as you said about dog soldiers. Some things are not that far-fetched. Yeah,
it's like soft disclosures. When me and you were talking about soft disclosures, there's my view on a soft disclosure is that from government standings is that the government really wants to keep us still in the dark, but because we become aware of these things, they're like, let's give them a little bit of information that's true, but combine it with a little fiction, and that's the soft disclosures that we get. Yeah.
And also I will state that not everybody in all the governments or the authorities are aware about it, only those ones who it concerns.
Right, who are in the know.
I mean, maybe President Biden, he doesn't know about it, but President Trump, of course, did.
Obama.
Or President Clinton. President Obama and President Clinton. So not everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
Like they're sitting down around the table in the meeting and say, by the way, we have Dogman and Bigfoot here. No.
Okay.
Especially in these countries up here.
Now, you had sent me a couple pages of information.
Yes.
And I'm just going through looking at it. I've already looked at it, but I'm scanning through it. And I kind of am laughing at this one Bigfoot are horny peepers because they are closer to human DNA. Now, they are what's the DNA what that you know of? Are they like, because I always, when I look at a Dogman and I look at a Bigfoot and I look at a human, I see something that could be related somehow with some sort of chromosome that, it may not be 100%. It may not even be 20%. It might be 5% of that DNA has some, there's genetic markers, whether it be small, large. So Bigfoot has a genetic marker that's similar to ours. Dogmen do not. Is there any kind of genetic makeup that is similar?
It was actually not my words. It was somebody else. I missed that one. But I can explain to you like this. The chimpanzees and the humans, they have some bedroom fun, just for fun, for the pleasure. The same thing with dolphins. Yeah. Dogmen, they just mate when they need to conceive a new pup. They find intimacy of all kind, on all levels, very gross. Miss Misha asked Alpha one time, because that's why when he explained that, oh, gross, like a kid said, oh, hugs and kisses, no. And she said, do you want a hug? And he said, no. And then he explained to her that they only do it for a mating purpose.
Okay.
While Bigfoot probably, of course, they are ape. For some, they are a little bit more promiscuous and want to have some fun. You hear more about Bigfoot raping cows and horses. So that's the only answer I can give you on that subject.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was flipping through and it just popped out at me and I laughed. Now here's something. We had talked a little bit about demonic beings like Skinwalker, which you and I had both. We had a pretty decent conversation about this prior to everything as well. Skinwalkers are, and a lot of people get this wrong, or misinterpret it would be the best thing. Mm-hmm. A Skinwalker is Navajo black magic shaman who wears the cape or clothes or skin, of the animal it wants to become. And the transformation happens. It doesn't grow in size. It pretty much is, let's say that Native American shaman's 5'6" or 5'8", and he does his ceremony and puts this hide on. He will be this creature, but it will still be 5'6", 5'8", pure evil. Wendigo is Native American and is the embodiment of evil in the Great Spirit's eyes because it partook in cannibalism in family members. Now, people have... I'm going somewhere with this because we associate things that are evil with red eyes. And we hear Dogmen and Bigfoot, sometimes Bigfoot having red eyes. Does Alpha have red eyes?
No. He has yellow eyes like the rest of them.
Okay.
The thing is that sometimes when they get mad, really mad, then the eyes change. They do the same thing as the Incredible Hulk, but the eyes getting red. But if you come across a Dogman who has burning red eyes all the time, or you can sense it as a human probably that this is something else than just a so-called animal. So the ones who are demonic, they have their red eyes, but they have another glow from it or the aura is not, like
So,
I said.
so
just
there's a
animal.
possession of some sort, like a demonic
Yes.
Dogman. There's some sort.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, that's
yes.
where I was going on that.
Demon manifest themselves as Dogman. Demon can manifest themselves as Bigfoot. Demon can manifest themselves pretty much whatever they like.
Okay.
The panda bear also if they want to.
Right. Right.
That's why you see demonic people as well. They're like you say, they are of course humans, but in their eyes you can see some of their activity, and also like you said, exactly like you said, possession. You have everybody can just read and see some people are possessed for real.
Right.
And look upon the eyes.
Yep. Yep. Now
we don't have red eyes, but they get black.
Black eyes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Alpha.
So yeah.
Most everybody that I know and that I've met through this channel, including yourself, are fascinated with learning more. And does Alpha? I'm assuming, just by everything that you've stated, Alpha possesses a lot of knowledge about a lot of stuff, old history, this and that, but history of Dogmen, the occasional history with humans and stuff like that.
Yes.
Does he
is on
Oh, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, sorry, no. He is on a totally higher level than even other Dogmen.
Right. How does he feel about...
He is one of, you can say, one of the enlightened one.
Right, yeah, yeah.
That's why he's an alpha, the big alpha.
How does he feel about... Does he have any view... Like, I don't know the extent of conversations you've had with him, so that's why I'm asking. Have you sat down with him or Miss Misha, and she has shared this with you, but has anyone sat down with Alpha? And I mean, sure, he's shared with you the history, but has he shared anything about present day? What he thinks of present day, what may happen? Is he have any? He's enlightened. Does he have any kind of awareness of what may
come?
Yeah.
Yes. He has ongoing conversation with Miss Misha, and they more or less not talk daily like two buddies, but they are on that speaking term. And he has shared, of course, his concern for stuff, and he shared some other things that the same I said before, that they are shying away from the mankind, but still protect us because we are destroying ourselves. We are not so great as we think we are. So they feel pity for us in one way, they want to help us, but they also look down on us because we make stupid mistakes. And then we can go into the religion. I saw that somebody asked about religion, and they don't have any religion because they are enlightened and they know what's real. Humans, we believe different things. We want to believe. We want to have a faith. They already know because they come from somewhere else. So he is knowledgeable of more or less everything. Maybe he's not can look into the future.
So they have like a spiritual. Does he have a spirituality instead of like a religion? I mean, even like Native Americans, or I've read where actually I think it was Norway, Denmark, or maybe even Sweden. There was a guy who kind of reverted back to the old Viking days, and where he believed in like he would pray to different gods, like the god of the wind or whatever, almost like a Native American thing. But is there a sense of spirituality with the Dogmen?
No.
So there's nothing like that.
They don't believe. They know. That's the difference. And what they know, I have not talked to Miss Misha that much about, but she gives me information. And once I can start having conversation with Alpha, of course, I can ask certain things, and it comes to my mind when I speak telepathically with him. But I'm just in the beginning of establishing a contact with him from my end. So that's the difference.
Right.
The wise Dogman, of course I can't speak for all of them. The wise Dogman, they don't have any beliefs because they know. They have the knowledge already. And it's very complex. It will take hours and hours to explain the thing that Miss Misha told me about the structure of the universe and so on. And it's also, of course, a process for me to get all this kind of information as almost like you say, in quotation marks, like newborn.
Yeah.
I haven't had this all my life.
Yeah, I mean, you were just... How long has it been of your awareness with this? Like, obviously, with me and most people, we have an experience, and whether we see something or we learn something, and we just become enamored with what, like, there's people that have never had an experience with Dogman. Yeah. But they've heard a story, or they've heard something that really clicks with them.
Yes.
When was that for you, and what was that?
Like I stated before this interview, 15 years ago, I read about the LBL, and then I start changing from spirits, because I, of course, experienced spirits in different forms, and also demons. And then I lean my interest towards cryptozoology, because I know about the Yeti since I was a kid. Everybody read Tintin in Tibet, here or in Europe. And then they were talking about the Yeti. And then I just checked out the Bigfoot, and they are in Washington State and the western part of Canada and the US, and it's snowballing from one thing to another. And like I said, I was very afraid of werewolves, you can say. So when I was a kid, I read about werewolves as well, the old lore from Northern Europe. So it has been with me for all the time, and it was a purpose. And I started to listen to the channels when they started to come out one by one, 2014, 2015. But of course, it clicked when I was start speaking with the Cloak Hedgehog, and then Miss Misha.
And that's how you met Misha. Miss Misha is through the Cloak Hedgehog.
No.
How did you meet her?
Forum.
If you don't mind me asking.
No, online forum.
Okay.
Groups. So the beauty of internet is that you come together, you exchange information, you get information, and the same thing there is a snowball effect. And some of them people, of course, they get obsessed with it, and that's not good at all. It doesn't matter if it's a religion or science or faith or whatever your interest. You should not get obsessed. You should look upon everything with critical eyes, and then you take your bits and pieces there, and you take bits and pieces there, and you lay your own small puzzle, and then you become more aware and enlightened if you are thinking about it. Not all of persons are able, I believe, to start thinking in a wider perspective for various reasons. It's not that they are stupid. They have maybe full time with the kids and the family, or you maybe are sick, or you have worries about the ordinary life, the economy, work. So it's up to each individual to do that journey. Some do, some don't.
Right.
And the good thing is that we spoke also before the interview that, like I said, about spirit animals.
Yes.
You guys who listen to this show, my only advice is to try to check out what you are. If you are the one who are, see everything from a perspective from outside at work or home, and you are the one who handle the reins or something like that. Maybe you are the eagle, for instance. oh, what kind of personalities? Yeah, da 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 da. And also the different signs. The real ancient text about the different signs can lead you along the way. Not totally the same thing there. You should not be obsessed with it.
Right.
But it is an indication of what we are, because we are spirits. The bodies are still our bodies.
I like that, what you just said, and I say that a lot, is when we hear something or talk to somebody, like you had said on that online forum, a lot of the things may not fit into your puzzle, but just take what fits into your puzzle and leave the rest. But don't forget that, because you might have to come back to that. And then, I don't think that you should, if you don't agree with something now, don't just disregard it as garbage, because maybe later you will come back to that and be like, now that makes more sense. And that was very, very, because I say it all the time. And I think that those are good words to live by. Take what fits into your puzzle now, but don't forget what doesn't.
Exactly, because life is changing, and usually people get more and more humble the more open and the more knowledge they get.
Yeah.
Because you have a different understanding to other people and the things around us. Like I said, the reality for me is reality, but I have also an extended reality where the Dogman is.
Yep.
Or the Dogmen are. The plural is. So it's plural. So the thing is that I have to live by my reality now. Work, income, pay rent, fuel up my car.
Yeah.
That's a reality.
Yeah. You can't be obsessed with constant. No. You have to have. There is.
I can't go to Alpha and say, hey, I need $200 because now the gas prices is fucking high.
Right.
So you have to put everything in perspective. And the thing is that for me, I can only speak for me, that I know from the very beginning that I was, my spirit animal is wolf. And I have a persona like human alpha. Not human alpha Dogman, but human alpha.
Right.
Since I was a kid. And like I told you, I show you the picture of me, and the funny thing is that it's really funny. People would think I'm crazy, but I aged very slow. Very slow.
Yeah.
I look upon 20 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
And the most fantastic thing here, after I've spoken to Miss Misha, which also aged very slow, my color of my eyes have changed. And then people think, I think he's a werewolf. No. The funny thing, the color of my eyes has been darker. And like I said to Jeff after the first interview, I only been angry, really angry, 4 times in my life. And one time, one guy hit a girl from behind. And it took 3 bouncers to try to get me off of him. I'm not the big dude. He was 6'3", 4", 2 meters, and I'm shorter. And then, of course, you get the super strength, with adrenaline when something happens to somebody that you love or like or care for, of course. But this was on a whole nother level, and that's why
like your inner spirit animal came out.
Yes, and it can be so for everybody.
Yeah.
In a good way, of course, when you're defending. You hear about people lifting cars, when the kids get stuck under it, or your dad, or...
Yeah, that's a very good example. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
That's spot on, because there's something inside of all of us, and it doesn't have to be, and here's the thing here, it doesn't have to be a wolf. It could be something else, something that fits your persona, something that fits who you are. And I I think by meditating and really sitting and really delving deep into yourself, you'll be able to find your spirit animal. And it might surprise you what it is, because you might be thinking, it might be some macho guy thinking, I'm a tiger or a lion or whatever. And through meditation, through speaking with other people and change, he may realize that his spirit animal is an owl, someone with wisdom or something like that, something completely different. And
so I am exactly like Dogman in that way, that after the pup years or juvenile years, they age very slow, and they become 80 to 100 years old, 120 years old. So Alpha is now approximately, I don't know the exact age of him, it is approximately 60 to 65, he said.
Right.
So he has many years to come, definitely. And I'm humble. I'm very happy to have this kind of contact with something that for 5 years ago, I wouldn't believe myself.
Yeah, wouldn't imagine being able to.
No.
We're coming up on on my recording time.
Yeah.
We'll more than likely, John Phoenix and myself are going to do a second interview. Actually,
I have so much more.
Yeah. In the first interview, what we did, that was just a pre-interview, more or less, to just, see how people would react to you and the information you had to share. And a lot of people really liked it, and I enjoy it. I really have had a great time talking to you. Actually, before we did the interview, we were speaking an hour prior to the interview.
So, all for you who listen to this show, we're going to be doing different segments piece by piece if Jeff wants, because I'm happy that he listened to me and give me this kind of platform.
Yeah.
Because we have so much things to cross off.
The
list that I gave you.
I got an idea. And I seldom, I love my subscribers, and I mean, this channel would be, that's why I thank them daily, because this channel is all of us. It's not my channel, it's our channel. And, but there's times that I don't go into the comment section because of the others that go in there. And then I just, at that point, then I kind of get just upset and don't want to, there's been times that I've been in the comment section that I didn't want to do this channel anymore. But what I'm getting at is if anyone has any questions to ask John Phoenix, to ask Alpha, possibly, or Miss Misha, put it in the comment section. I'll look through the comment section. John Phoenix, I saw him in the comment section the other day. I'm sure he'll look through it. And if that's something that you're willing to do, I'll compile some questions, as long as they are reasonable and not, strange or idiotic.
I have another idea that actually you and I just check through the questions, and then I'm going to gather it and see if it's actually already on the list, or I can just add it, because I have no problem answer each and every one of you.
Yeah.
But some of the listeners, they don't even go into the comment section on YouTube. They listen to this show on other platforms.
Yeah.
And I think that because I have 3 pages, Jeff knows about that. I have 3 pages with different kind of things that actually goes from A to Z.
Yeah. Well, if I had, okay, so here's something that's not on the page. And you may not know, or Miss Misha may not know, but it'd be a question for like Alpha, like a historical question of,
Yes.
does he know about the time, or has he heard about the times when supposedly a tribe of dogmen walked across the Bering Strait with a tribe of men? Was there ever an all-out kind of war between dogmen and men? And if so, when? And
Yes.
how did that end? What was the conclusion of it, and stuff like that? That's what and if if that's something that you're interested in doing, and maybe like if there's a question that you can't answer that you could bring to Alpha to answer, would
Yes.
he be willing to do that, or would you be willing to ask that question?
Actually, I asked Miss Misha about my performance, and I said, was he satisfied with it? And she said, yeah, because you spoke the truth.
Right.
And that's enough for me. So he was not upset or you get, what do you say? Yeah, upset.
And there were certain things in that pre-interview that I took out because there were certain things that you couldn't share that we had talked about. And you had given me permission to record it too. But I was like, there was...
But leave that one out, and we take it to the next interview. Because, I need to listen to what I say, because I was rambling on that much in the beginning.
All right.
I think.
No, I mean, when me and you were talking privately, and there was just certain, like, a couple of information that you couldn't share that I had taken out. But all in all, like, I mean, if there's any kind of information, like if there was an all-out human dogman war, I mean, obviously we know via the sheet of information that you sent me that in 1003 there was a falling apart. But was there ever some kind of, mini battles or whatever, because we throughout history and, the stories that we hear of, Greek and Roman times with creatures that don't exist now, but may have existed then. Was there these battles that ensued? So,
do you have another minute, or
we have about 5-10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes more. Okay. I'm gonna drop a bomb for you that in Roman time, and it was a little dude who actually formed a religion that actually know about this dogman, and they were actually present when he was crucified.
Really?
Yes. The dogmen were the ones who actually made crosses for the Romans as workers. But the humans who were crucified, of course, dragged their own crosses. But to humiliate Jesus, they made this cross very, very big and, of course, very, very heavy. So, one of the mercenaries carried the cross for Jesus, because of course he starved and he was weak, and he know what was coming for him, and they used the dogmen, of course, as guardians around the crosses to prevent people to come up and spit on Jesus and the other two, or other 5 or 15, I don't know how many actually got crucified at the same time there. And also prevent those ones who was his disciples or believers to come and try to take him down. They were not humans who was guarding his grave. They were dogmen, mercenaries. And they knew that Jesus was a very, very important person for the humans. They didn't put any beliefs themselves in it. It was just a job.
Yeah.
For them.
They had no belief that Christ was the Son of God. They were doing a job.
Yes.
Right.
They know that was a part of the process. So they were actually in the really, really old books of the New Testament. They have actually taken away that were Dogman who was standing guard there.
Right. Well, in here is a question that maybe you can share with Miss Misha back to Alpha.
Yes.
You just shared this information with us, but yet there's not through Roman Catholic, but from Orthodox Christians or Orthodox Catholics or whatever it is, we hear about Saint Christopher. We hear about Saint Christopher supposedly was a dog-headed man, or we hear that he worked with dog-headed men. There's a couple of different versions of that, but there is a painting that refers to Saint Christopher as a dog-headed man. Could this possibly be an enlightened dogman or a intelligent dogman that instead of following the way of the dogmen back then, did he turn towards Christianity?
That's a very interesting. Of course, I'm going to forward that question to Miss Misha.
Because you hear so much, there's so much chatter about that picture. There's people that say, and then people state that, he worked with these dog-headed men, but yet the picture shows him as a dog-headed man. So could this be a dog man that through communication with humans, and because back then there was that communication because it was before 1003, maybe he converted and just chose to go on a path of Orthodox Christianity. That'd be a great question if you could ask her on that.
I can just add a couple of things. First, the Vatican knows about everything of this, and of course they keep it secret in the vault. The Great Fire of Alexandria is one of the greatest losses for humankind because there was so much information who got lost there.
Yep.
Some of the things, of course, get saved and they shipped straight off to the
Vatican.
Yeah. Yes, or the thing that actually was the Vatican back then.
We had a great talk about this too because it's.
I can also state to everybody that Alpha he knows about everything, but there are some things that he doesn't share with us because we can't comprehend. He's not allowed to share with us, so don't get offended that maybe I don't have the right answers for everything that you write.
Right.
Or ask.
Here's my last question.
Yeah, sure.
My last question, because, and I'm not trying to debunk anything.
Nope.
Sorry. But Alpha, you had stated earlier that Alpha was the Alpha, and there is section or certain, 5 other alphas that can, but you just said that Alpha, there are things that Alpha is not allowed to share. Who is not allowing Alpha to not share these things? If he is the Alpha, that's...
Yeah. Because we're not supposed to know everything that he does.
Per se him.
Yeah, he said it. We are not supposed to, because some of the stuff that he knows and the other ones in this kind of council, they know, is that we can't grasp some things. We change stuff probably, or we are not maybe trustworthy for them. I haven't asked in that way.
Yeah. Or we may they
have a skepticism towards us humans.
Yeah.
Like I said, somebody asked, how many people are in contact with Dogman? Well, less than 400.
Yeah.
In that way that Miss Misha and I am. And don't think for a second I was running around and thinking, I am the Dogman whisperer. I am so much better than everybody else. No, I'm blessed in that way, in my opinion. And it is a constant evolution for me to grasp that I get to know stuff that some other people don't.
Right.
And that's not unique for me, because some of the enlightened people, or the ones who are psychic and everything, they know a lot more things than I do.
Right.
Because this is supposed to be in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
This is my assignment. This is my mission. This is my task here on Earth, to come forward with this information. And if people do believe it or don't believe it, or think I'm just a liar, what can I do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Exactly.
And
maybe that's why, and exactly what you said, maybe I answered my own question, is who control, but maybe the reason why he won't share X amount of knowledge with us is because humans nowadays, because nowadays we don't know about these things. We don't acknowledge them because they are in hiding. Like if it was such a thing as what we are talking about, Dogman and human lived side by side, a lot of people can't even fathom that happening. So there is this information that Alpha has that, may be so strange to us that we wouldn't accept it anyway. And
yeah. And you have the other aspect. The Vatican knows about a lot of stuff that we're not allowed to know. The different government knows about stuff.
Yeah.
And it's power, money, control.
Yep.
And also about the religion, the faith. Imagine if an alien comes down and say, hey, you've been believing stuff that doesn't exist. It's just a make-up stuff. There will be chaos in one way. And if some religion falls, the other one also maybe falls, and there will be not anarchy, but you know what I get to. I will get to.
Absolutely.
And that's why the humankind, we're not allowed to know everything.
Yep. Yeah, it makes sense.
Because we are a lower race, and we still kill each other over territory, religion, food. even Michael Jordan sneakers.
Yeah, I was gonna say we kill even for less things than religion, food, and property. It's $3.
Yep.
People kill each other for a hit of crack, for God's sakes. So it's yeah. Well,
so if you look upon from that aspect, it does make sense for everything.
Yeah, it does. John Phoenix, we are about on time right now, or out of time right now. I want to thank you for coming back.
Thank you very much.
It's an honor to have you back.
Thank you, and I apologize for those who think that we're just going to talk about Dogman, but they are also a reason why I and Jeff spoke about this one, so you can start to understand the Alpha, the information that you get.
Yeah.
So everything has a purpose.
Yep.
Even though it become a little bit more philosophically, or what is it? But I'm here. I'm still here, and I'm going to talk to Jeff, and I'm going to, of course, give you all guys information piece by piece, and in line or from A to Z, as you say in English.
Yeah. So if there is any questions that you guys have, put them in the comment section, and if they can be answered.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah,
no, if they can be answered, you'll answer them, and if they can't be, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, you will get the answer from most of the questions, and like I said, I'm not in charge here. The Alpha is, and if he says no, then I have to respect it.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. It was awesome. It was awesome having you back.
Awesome. Yes.
Do me a favor. Don't hang up. I want to talk to you for a couple minutes after. And thank you for coming back. Thank you. And please send thanks to Miss Misha, and the Alpha. We appreciate any kind of information that can be passed along as well. So have a wonderful day. And no, thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor.
Yeah, thank you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Wow, what a really fascinating interview. John is a super nice guy, and I really enjoyed talking with him prior to the interview, and after. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of questions you guys come up with. Also, I'm looking forward to hearing the answer to my question about St. Christopher. If it has any kind of truth that he was a dog-headed man and turned his back on his clan and embraced Christianity, that'd be interesting to know. Or if St. Christopher just tended to the religious needs of those dog-headed men. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's interview as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I want to thank you all for all of your support. May the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may He guide us down that path that we call life.